Hi folks, well we're back for another weekly vocabulary edition and an update. So it is the middle of May and final exams are done for spring 2020 at the University of Colorado, and so I am done teaching classes there. I have now left the Nordic program, and I will continue at the University of Colorado in an unpaid position as resident scholar. So I am now a full-time public educator in terms of where my income comes from, and we'll have to see if this really works. Putting together Patreon and royalties and consulting and the great courses thing. So even though classes are done, as usual for my summer, as busy as ever, working on the Saga of Herborn Hederick and the Saga of Rolf Kraki, that book. That project got kind of paused for a while, especially with the Wanderers Hofmall and then some of the other stuff that came up, but now we're really trying to get that book done. So the entire manuscript has been submitted, including the translations and the introduction. The introduction is always the hard part. That's going to be reviewed and edited. Maybe there will be some significant things I need to change. I haven't heard back about that. Maybe not, right? So I don't have a feel for the time frame of that, but I would say that'll definitely be out sometime in 2021 is I think realistic, and then the prose edit will follow that at some point. And I have of course worked on translating parts of the prose edit already for classes, sometimes for videos. Some videos contain actually pretty decent chunks of it, and for the great courses. But of course, when that'll be out, all I can say is this decade, right? These things are very slow, and a project like that would be particularly big. And it will be slow going through some parts of the last two parts of the prose edit, called Skaparmal and Haltetal, which are less narrative. But my translation of the prose edit will include the Saga of the Inglings too from Heimskringla, so that'll be a bonus not often found, and I think maybe not ever found in prose edit translations in English. The great courses thing has continued to be a ton of work, but that's one of the things really keeping me busy right now. And I've kept making videos during quarantine, although maybe a little bit less lately. You saw some older videos, just as more of the great courses work really picked up. All right, so this week what I was thinking for vocabulary is let's talk about birds. I'm a big bird guy. And birds are coming back in a big way. Of course, we have certain birds that are kind of here all year long, but with the summer return in the Rockies, there's more birds around than have been heretofore. So the normal basic word for bird is Vogel. That's related to English fowl, German Vogel, etc. It's actually related to the word fly. So if you look at Vogel, you may notice that the Old Norse word for flight just is flug, so with some metathesis there. So it is in fact just the flying animal. And of course a bird flies because a bird has fjodr, which is a feather. Now fjodr and English feather, by the way, actually come from a very old Indo-European root for feather or wing, which is shared by Greek pater, which is almost exactly the same as Old Norse fjodr, English feather in terms of Grimm's law, right? P's become F's, T's, depending on stress, become the. And of course you see that in something like pterodactyl, pteranodon, right? Some prehistoric flying animals. Particular kinds of birds. In birds of prey, we see, for instance, the hawk, haukur, and the eagle, orn. Now, orn looks kind of like it would be a feminine, just because of that hook-o vowel, right? But in fact, this comes from something that earlier would have been perhaps like arnus. It's not a feminine, it's a masculine. Then, of course, there's corvid birds, very important in Norse mythology and in the sagas. So there's the raven, hraven, and the crow, kroki. Notice that is not kraki. Kraki is actually stepladder. So if you look at the name of the great king Rolf Kraki in the saga of Rolf Kraki, he's Rolf Stepladder, not Rolf Crow. You actually don't very often see, though, that masculine form kroki. You more often see the feminine kroka, which is also the name taken by Oslaug, daughter of Sigurdur and Brynhild, in the beginning of the Saga of Ragnar Lothbrok, before she reveals her true identity to her husband Ragnar, after they've had many sons. I ought to mention the owl, Ugla, and of course there are many water birds that are going to come up in Old Norse. So there's the gull, the mor, which I think is related to a word mew that you sometimes see in English for some gulls. Maybe it's a dialect thing. I'm not familiar with the term, but I've seen it quoted here and there. Actually, mor is borrowed wholesale into English in the name of one bird, the fulmar, which actually comes from Old Norse fulmar. It's the foul gull or disgusting gull because it vomits, I think, as a defensive measure. So that's why it's the disgusting gull. Look them up, you'll understand. There's also the swan, svanr, a masculine word on its own, although that is used as an element in many women's names, Svanhildr, Svandís. And of course there are domestic birds. The rooster is hani, and the hen is hyna. Both of those come from the same root, and of course that's the same root as English hen. It's ultimately, by the way, an Indo-European root for singing. It's related to Latin canare, to sing. And of course you may find domestic geese. The goose is gos, or domestic duck, which is ond. Well, there you got some bird names, a little bit of an update. Hope everyone's doing all right, and thank you once again for one more week of your support on Patreon. All the best for now.